Like I mentioned in the last tutorial, you really don't want to take two shapes and put them together with a flat face because you're going to have minimal points of contact, which is going to make a really weak print, or actually a print that falls apart as it's printing, which is quite sad. I see a lot of people who want to put their face on their snow person, and they take a half sphere like this and stick it onto the face. And if we rotate around and look at it from the other side, you can see it's just got minimal points of contact. So keep that in mind as we're building. To start with something like the arm, I'm going to grab a cylinder and stretch it up by dragging the top handle way up into the air, and then I'm going to shift, select, and shrink it down universally so that it's more like a branch. I don't want to make it too thin because it could snap off. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to show you how to take the arm and rotate it. You can see these kind of side-to-side curvy handles that are on the bottom and top of the cylinder here, and those let you turn the cylinder in different directions. I actually want to lay it down flat onto the work plane, but I don't see the handle that I'm looking for, so I'm going to turn it the other direction so I can see it, and I want to lie that down. If you are moving your mouse within the bounds of that circle, you can see that outside it's kind of free rotational, inside it locks to the internal degrees. So I'm going to lock it to 90 degrees, I'm going to lower it a little bit down to the work plane so that it's kind of lying on the floor, and I'm going to add some fingers. Let's go with spherical fingers. To make a bunch of fingers, I'm only going to put 3 fingers on this snow person's arm. So what I'm going to do here is box select these, align them to the center, and then align them to the center vertically also, so that they are lined up like a lollipop. At this point, I'm going to duplicate the fingers so that I can move them around and have more than one on the end of the hand. And I'm clicking the Fit to View selection here so I can see it up close, and then I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to duplicate the finger and then tap it out a little bit with my arrow keys. If you are tapping like this and you're not getting the type of movement that you would like, either it's too small or too little, you can change this, that's called the snap grid, down in the bottom right hand corner. You can change the snap grid to be bigger or smaller, so when you are tapping on the arrow keys on the keyboard to move your object back and forth, then you're getting the amount of movement that you want. I'm just now resizing the fingers. I shift resized it so it shrank down, and then I stretched it out without holding shift, and now I'm using the arrow keys on the keyboard to tap it into place where I want it to be. I'm going to duplicate that. I don't want it to be copied in terms of the translation, so I'm going to click it again after I deleted that and duplicate it again. That just kind of gets rid of the transformation. And then I'm tapping it over with my arrow key on my keyboard. I'm going to rotate it a little bit with the rotational handle to, I think that looks good. And then I'm tapping it back into space by hitting the up key. Let's duplicate that one more time. I don't want that version again. I'm going to duplicate it. And then what I'm going to use now is called the flip tool. If you click on this while you have a shape selected, it's going to flip it back and forth. Now I don't want to have just flipped the shape that I want. I want to flip a copy of it. So I already have duplicated that finger. I flipped it, and then I tapped it over to the other side of the hand with the arrow keys. These are a little bit low, so I'm going to align them along the vertical axis in the center by clicking that handle. And now the hand looks like I want it to look. Okay, the last thing I want to do for this tutorial is I want to put this hand on the body. So I'm going to select the whole thing. I'm going to group it so I don't accidentally tap the shapes apart from each other. And then I'm going to use the rotational handles to move it the direction that I want it. So I'm going to rotate it about 90 degrees this way. And then I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees the other way. And then I'm going to rotate it not quite all the way up. That looks good. So that it's kind of sticking up in the air as a little hand, and then I'm going to put that onto the body. So now I'm going to take the arm and push it back onto the body, and then I'm going to raise it up in space, and I'm going to use the arrow keys to adjust it a little bit so it goes exactly where I want it to. I'm just going to tap it to the left here, and double check that that looks okay, maybe a little bit more. And make sure I get it exactly where I want it. I'm going to change the snap grid a little bit so that I can raise and lower it without it going up too high too quickly. I like it there. And then I'm going to copy it with duplicate and flip it side to side. So the duplicate is flipped. Turn off flip, and then I'll use the arrow keys to tap it to the left until I feel like it's in the right place.